Imagine walking into a towering glass building in the heart of Chicago, a place where dreams are made and broken with the stroke of a pen. Now, picture yourself as the CEO of a multi-million-dollar tech empire, yet feeling emptier than the boardroom after hours. What if the one person who finally makes you feel seen isn't a high-powered executive or a star employee, but the janitor who sweeps the floors? Today, we're diving into a story that will challenge everything you think you know about power, respect, and humanity. This is the tale of Harold Grayson, a man at the top of the world who went undercover to uncover the truth about his company and ended up discovering the truth about himself. Stick around until the end, because the twist in this story will leave you speechless. Let's get started. Stories like this remind us that the most profound lessons often come from the most unexpected places. As a storyteller with over a decade of weaving narratives, I've learned that the heart of any great tale lies in its ability to connect us to raw human emotion. Whether it's the struggle of a CEO grappling with purpose or the quiet strength of a janitor who sees beyond titles, these stories resonate because they mirror our own lives. So grab a coffee, settle in, and let's journey into the world of Apex Solutions, where one man's kindness turned a corporate giant upside down. Before we begin, don't forget to hit that like button if you're ready for a story that will tug at your heartstrings, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Let's build this community together. Harold Grayson wasn't your typical CEO. At 47, he had spent decades climbing the corporate ladder, his name etched in gold on the door of Apex Solutions, one of Chicago's most successful tech firms. From the outside, his life was a picture of perfection: boardroom victories, a sprawling penthouse, and a reputation as a ruthless strategist. But inside, Harold felt a void he couldn't name. Late at night, as he stared out over the city skyline from his office window on the 42nd floor, he wondered, was this all there was? Profits and power, but no purpose? The weight of his success felt like a hollow trophy, polished on the outside but empty within. Apex Solutions was a machine, churning out cutting-edge software and staggering revenue, yet Harold sensed a disconnect. He'd overhear whispers in the hallways, complaints about grueling hours, lack of recognition, and a culture that seemed to value results over relationships. As a leader, he'd always believed in leading from the top, issuing directives from his glass-walled office. But now doubt crept in. Did he truly know what was happening at the ground level? Were his employees thriving or merely surviving? That's when a radical idea struck him: go undercover. For 1 week, he'd strip away his title, don a disguise, and walk among his employees as one of them. He wanted to see the raw, unfiltered truth of his company through the eyes of someone invisible to the corporate elite. Under the alias Tom Miller, Harold traded his tailored suits for a plain polo shirt and khakis from a thrift store. He dyed his salt and pepper hair a dull brown, wore cheap wire-framed glasses, and practiced a slouched posture to blend in. On his first day as Tom, he stepped into the bustling office on the 15th floor, his heart pounding with a mix of excitement and dread. This was no longer his kingdom. He was just another cog in the machine, assigned to data entry in a cramped cubicle. And the reality hit hard. Colleagues brushed past him without a nod, their eyes glued to screens or lost in hurried conversations. In the break room, no one offered a seat or even a glance as he fumbled with the coffee machine. Harold felt like a ghost, unseen and unheard, and it shook him to his core. For the first time in years, he understood what it meant to be insignificant in a world he had built. But storytelling isn't just about setting a scene, it's about creating tension. As I've learned over years of crafting narratives, the best stories place characters in unfamiliar territory, forcing them to confront their vulnerabilities. Harold's journey as Tom wasn't just a gimmick, it was a descent into a world where status meant nothing, and survival meant adapting. For a man used to commanding respect with a single word, This invisibility was a bitter pill to swallow. I remember writing a similar story about a billionaire who lived as a street vendor for a month. His shock at being ignored mirrored Harold's, reminding me how universal this struggle is. We all crave connection, no matter our rank. And yet it was in this very isolation that Harold would soon meet the one person who saw him not as a CEO or a nobody, but as a human being. Amidst the cold indifference of the office, one person stood out like a beacon of warmth: Leo Bennett, the janitor. Leo was a wiry man in his late 50s with a weathered face that told stories of a hard lifelines etched by years of labor and laughter, and kind eyes that seemed to see straight through pretense. He'd been with Apex Solutions for over 2 decades, pushing a broom through the same hallways, while executives came and went like fleeting shadows. Most employees barely noticed him, their gazes skimming over his faded uniform as if he were part of the furniture. But Leo knew every inch of the building, from the flickering light in the third-floor bathroom to the hidden coffee stains under conference tables, and it seemed every unspoken tension within its walls. On Harold's second day as Tom, Leo approached him near the coffee machine with a simple, "Morning, Tom. How's your day starting?" The words were ordinary, but the genuine curiosity behind them caught Harold off guard. In a world where he felt like a shadow, Leo's small act of kindness was a lifeline. Over the next few days, their interactions grew. Leo would nod as they passed in the hallway, offer a quick joke about the rainy Chicago weather, or ask if Tom needed help finding the supply closet. It wasn't just politeness, it was care, the kind Harold hadn't felt in years, not even from his closest advisors, who often masked flattery as friendship. One afternoon, during a quiet lunch break, Harold found Leo sitting on a weathered bench outside the building, munching on a turkey sandwich wrapped in wax paper and flipping through a worn paperback copy of To Kill a Mockingbird. Hesitant but curious, Harold approached. "Mind if I sit?" he asked, clutching his own meager lunch of a vending machine granola bar. Leo's face lit up with a welcoming grin. "Plenty of room, my friend," he replied, scooting over to make space. What started as small talk about the Cubs' latest game turned into a deeper conversation. Harold, still as Tom, found himself opening up about feeling lost in the corporate grind, his words spilling out like a dam breaking. Leo listened, not with judgment but with understanding, nodding as if he'd heard this story 1,000 times before. "You know, Tom," Leo said, his voice soft but steady as he gazed at the bustling street below, "I've watched folks chase titles and bonuses for years. They think that's the answer, but most of them leave here just as empty as when they started. Me, I've learned to find peace in the little things, helping someone out, cracking a smile, keeping this place running. It's not glamorous, but it's real." Those words pierced Harold's carefully constructed armor. As a CEO, he'd measured success by quarterly reports and stock prices, but Leo's perspective flipped that on its head. What if meaning wasn't at the top, but in the quiet corners of life? What if all his corner office victories were just distractions from something deeper? As a storyteller, I've always believed that the best characters are those who challenge our assumptions. Leo isn't just a janitor in this story. He's a mirror reflecting what Harold, and by extension, all of us, might be missing. In my experience, crafting a character like Leo requires balancing simplicity with depth. He's not a saint or a savior. He's a man who's chosen contentment over ambition, and that choice becomes a quiet rebellion against a world obsessed with status. I've written characters like him before. Think of the wise old fisherman in a short story I penned years ago, who taught a young hotshot lawyer the value of patience. These archetypes resonate because they embody universal truths. This dynamic between Harold and Leo is the emotional core of our tale, setting the stage for the conflicts to come. But not everyone at Apex Solutions shared Leo's warmth. Harold began to notice subtle but pervasive disrespect toward Tom. A middle manager named Greg snapped at him for a minor typo in a report. his tone dripping with impatience. "Can't you get anything right?" Colleagues excluded him from casual conversations about weekend plans, their laughter fading as he approached. Once he overheard a group in the break room mocking the new guy for being slow, their words cutting deeper than he expected. It wasn't just personnel, it was systemic. People judged worth by titles, and as a low-level employee, Tom was disposable. This stung Harold more than he anticipated. He'd built this company from a small startup in a rented garage, dreaming of innovation and teamwork, yet its culture had strayed so far from that vision. One evening, after most employees had left, Harold lingered to observe the night crew, curious about the unseen labor that kept Apex running. That's when he witnessed a moment that would stay with him forever. Near the supply closet on the 10th floor, two workers, a stockroom clerk and a maintenance tech, got into a heated argument over missing inventory. Voices escalated, accusations of theft flew, and it seemed like a physical fight was imminent. Then, out of nowhere, Leo appeared, mop in hand, his presence calm but commanding. "Hey now, let's cool off," he said, stepping between them with a steady gaze. "We're all tired, all working hard. No need to turn on each other over a misunderstanding." His tone wasn't authoritative, but it carried weight, a quiet strength born from years of navigating life's rough edges. The tension dissolved like mist, and the two men muttered apologies before walking away, heads bowed. Harold, hidden in the shadows of a nearby cubicle, was stunned. Here was a man with no title, no power, yet he wielded more influence in that moment than any executive could. This scene, in storytelling terms, is a turning point. It's what I call a reveal of character, a moment where actions speak louder than words. Leo's intervention isn't just about stopping a fight. It's a glimpse into the kind of leadership Harold has forgotten. Over years of writing, I've found that these small, pivotal scenes can carry more emotional weight than grand gestures. They ground the story in reality, making the audience lean in, wondering what happens next. How will Harold reconcile this raw display of humanity with the sterile world he's created? The answer lies just ahead. As the week drew to a close, Harold knew it was time to shed his disguise. On the final day, he called a company-wide meeting in the expansive conference room, his heart heavy with anticipation. Standing before his employees as Harold Grayson, CEO, he felt the weight of every eye in the room, some curious, others wary. The silence was deafening as he adjusted the microphone and began to speak. "For the past week, I've walked among you not as your boss, but as one of you, under the name Tom Miller. I wanted to see the truth of this company, and what I found has changed me forever." Gasps rippled through the crowd, a murmur of disbelief spreading like wildfire. Harold pressed on, his voice steady despite the emotion swelling inside. "I saw how easy it is to judge someone by their role, to overlook their worth because they don't sit in a corner office. I felt invisible, dismissed, and it hurt more than I can say. As Tom, I was just another face, unworthy of a hello or a helping hand. But I also met someone who reminded me what this company, what life should be about." His gaze found Leo, standing quietly at the back near the exit, mop still in hand, his expression unreadable. "Leo Bennett, you saw me when no one else did. You treated me with kindness, not because of who I was, but because that's who you are. You taught me that true leadership isn't about power, it's about heart." The room erupted in applause, a wave of sound that seemed to shake the glass walls. Leo's eyes glistened with unshed tears as he nodded, overwhelmed by the recognition. But Harold wasn't done. "I have also seen things I can't ignore: disrespect, exclusion, a culture that's lost its way. Starting today, we're changing that. New policies will ensure fairness for every role, from the mailroom to the boardroom. And Leo, I'd like you to take on a new role as a mentor to our staff, teaching us what it means to truly care. Your wisdom isn't just needed, it's essential." This moment is the emotional climax, a release of tension built over the story. In my years of storytelling, I've learned that a good climax isn't just about resolution, it's about transformation. Harold isn't the same man who started this journey, and neither is the company. But to keep the audience engaged, I've added a twist: Leo's new role. It's unexpected, elevating a background character to a position of influence, mirroring real-life stories where unsung heroes finally get their due. It's a moment of poetic justice, designed to make viewers cheer for the underdog who's finally seen. But let's add a layer of realism with a specific example. Imagine a young employee named Mia, a junior analyst who had been struggling with burnout. After Harold's speech during one of Leo's first mentorship sessions in a small meeting room, she approached him hesitantly. "I've been thinking of quitting," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I feel like no one notices my work, no matter how many late nights I pull." Leo, drawing from his own quiet resilience, shared a story from his early days at Apex, how he once felt invisible too, sweeping floors while others climbed the ranks, but found purpose in small acts of service. "You matter, Mia," he told her, his tone gentle but firm. "Not because of a title, but because of what you bring to others. Start small, help a coworker, share a kind word. It adds up." Inspired by his words, Mia stayed, eventually becoming a team leader who championed inclusivity, often crediting Leo for showing her the value of perseverance. This vignette, born from my storytelling toolkit, shows the ripple effect of change, making the narrative more relatable and impactful for viewers who might see themselves in Mia's struggles. I've always believed that stories need these personal touches to bridge the gap between fiction and reality. In my experience, adding subplots like Mia's grounded in emotional truth helps the audience connect on a deeper level. It's not just about Harold's transformation, it's about how one act of kindness can spark a chain reaction, touching lives far beyond the initial moment. As we move to the resolution, let's see how these changes play out in the wider world of Apex Solutions. In the months that followed, Apex Solutions began to transform, slowly but surely. Harold, now seeing his role through a new lens, implemented anonymous feedback systems, ensuring every voice from interns to senior managers was heard without fear of reprisal. He introduced Kindness Days, a monthly initiative where employees were encouraged to recognize small acts of support, inspired directly by Leo's example. A bulletin board in the break room soon overflowed with notes thanking coworkers for gestures as simple as holding a door or sharing a snack. Leo, now a mentor, held weekly sessions in a cozy corner of the office, sharing stories and insights that bridged the gap between roles. Slowly, the culture shifted. Cubicles became communities, and respect became the currency of the office, not titles or bonuses. For Harold, the change was deeply personal. He started hosting open-door lunches once a month, inviting employees from all levels to share their thoughts over pizza and soda in the conference room. He even took up Leo's habit of sitting outside on that same weathered bench during breaks, reflecting on the skyline and the meaning of it all. One crisp autumn day, as they sat together watching leaves skitter across the pavement, Harold turned to Leo. "I thought I had it all figured out," he admitted, his voice tinged with humility. "But you showed me I was blind to what mattered most." Leo chuckled softly, his breath visible in the cool air. "We're all learning, Harold. Even a janitor has lessons to teach and to learn." As a storyteller, I've always believed that resolutions should feel earned, not forced. This isn't a fairy tale ending where everything is perfect. It's a realistic shift, showing that change takes time and effort. Drawing from my experience, I've woven in details like Kindness Days to ground the transformation in actionable steps, making the story resonate with viewers who might want to apply these ideas in their own workplaces. It's not just about a happy ending, it's about a hopeful beginning, a promise of better days built on mutual respect. Now, let's draw a broader lesson with a real-world parallel. Consider the story of a company like Patagonia, known for its employee-centric culture. In the 1980s, founder Yvon Chouinard went undercover in his own way, working alongside staff to understand their needs, leading to groundbreaking policies like on-site childcare and environmental initiatives. Much like Harold, he learned that leadership isn't about control, it's about connection. This example, rooted in research I've done on corporate culture over the years, adds depth to our narrative, showing that Harold's journey isn't a one-off. It's part of a larger truth about human-centered leadership. Companies thrive not just on profits, but on the well-being of their people, a lesson Harold now carried in his heart. The transformation at Apex Solutions wasn't without challenges. There were skeptics among the staff. Some managers resisted the new policies, grumbling about soft leadership, while others doubted if the changes would last. But Harold, inspired by Leo's quiet perseverance, remained steadfast. He held town hall meetings to address concerns, sharing his own vulnerabilities as Tom Miller to build trust. "I felt what many of you feel every day," he told them during one session, his voice raw with honesty. "Invisible, undervalued, I'm here to make sure no one else does." Over time, even the doubters began to come around, especially as they saw tangible results, reduced turnover, better collaboration, and a renewed sense of purpose echoing through the hallways. Leo, too, faced his own adjustments. Stepping into a mentorship role wasn't easy for a man used to working in the background. At first, he felt out of place leading discussions, his hands still itching for a broom rather than a whiteboard marker. But with Harold's encouragement and the eager faces of employees like Mia, he grew into it. He shared lessons from his life, how he'd raised 3 kids on a janitor's salary, how he'd learned to find joy in routine, how a smile could diffuse a bad day. "I'm no guru," he'd say with a shy grin, "but I've lived enough to know we're all in this together." His humility made him a beacon, not just for Apex employees, but for Harold, who often sought his counsel on tough decisions. In my storytelling journey, I've learned that resolutions must balance hope with realism. A perfect ending feels cheap. A gritty, ongoing struggle feels authentic. That's why I've included these hurdles: resistance from staff, Leo's initial discomfort to show that change is a process, not a switch. I recall a story I wrote about a small-town diner owner who revamped her failing business by listening to her staff. The pushback she faced mirrors what Harold encounters here. Real change, whether in a diner or a tech firm, demands patience and grit, and I want viewers to feel that truth in their bones. So what can we take from this story? First, kindness is a superpower. Leo's small gestures, a greeting, a listening ear, changed a CEO's perspective and, in turn, a company's soul. It wasn't grand speeches or big budgets. It was human connection, pure and simple. Second, true leadership doesn't come from a title. It comes from actions. Whether you're a janitor or a CEO, how you treat others defines your impact. Leo led without authority, proving that influence is earned through character, not position. And finally, never underestimate the power of stepping into someone else's shoes. Harold's undercover mission wasn't just a stunt. It was a mirror that forced him to confront uncomfortable truths about his company and himself. In my years of writing, I've found that ending with clear takeaways keeps the audience engaged long after the story ends. These lessons aren't just for Harold, they're for all of us. Maybe you're not a CEO, but you can still be a Leo in your own world, spreading kindness in ways that ripple outward. I've seen this in my own life once. A simple thank you to a barista turned her rough day around, and she later told me it reminded her why she loved her job. Small acts matter. So I challenge you, this week, notice someone who's often overlooked, a coworker, a neighbor, a stranger, and offer a kind word or gesture. You might just change their day or even their life. Let's reflect on another example to drive this home. Think about the story of a teacher I once interviewed for a piece on community impact. Ms. Carter, a middle school educator in a struggling district, made it her mission to greet every student by name each morning, no matter how rushed she was. One boy, who'd been on the verge of dropping out, later said those greetings made him feel seen for the first time. He stayed in school and graduated. Like Leo, Ms. Carter wielded no grand power, but her consistent care reshaped lives. This parallel, drawn from my archives of real-world stories, reinforces our narrative's core. Humanity trumps hierarchy every time. As we wrap up, remember that Harold's journey and Leo's quiet heroism mirrors countless untold stories in workplaces everywhere. Maybe there's a Leo in your office, sweeping floors or stocking shelves, whose wisdom could shift your perspective if you'd only listen. Or maybe you're the Harold in a position to change the game but unsure where to start. Wherever you stand, this story is a nudge to look deeper, to value the unseen, and to lead with heart. It's a reminder that success isn't in skyscrapers or spreadsheets, it's in the connections we forge along the way. And there you have it, friends, the story of Harold and Leo, a reminder that the smallest acts can spark the biggest changes. If this tale touched you, don't forget to hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment below telling me what resonated most with you, or share a time when kindness made a difference in your life. I read every single one and love connecting with this amazing community. And if you're new here, subscribe now for more stories that inspire, challenge, and uplift. We've got plenty more where this came from. Before I go, let's end with a thought. In a world obsessed with climbing higher, maybe the real climb is inward, toward empathy and connection. Who's the Leo in your life, and how can you be one for someone else? Think about it and let me know. The comments. I'm curious to hear your stories. Thanks for spending this time with me. If you'd like to support the channel further, consider sending a super thanks. Just tap the 3 dots near the share button. Every bit helps me keep crafting these stories for you. Until next time, keep looking for the Leos in your life, those quiet heroes who remind us what truly matters. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now. One last thing, storytelling is my passion and your engagement fuels it. If you've got ideas for future stories, maybe a tale of underdog triumph or a hidden hero in your own circle, let me know. This channel is as much yours as it is mine, and together we can uncover the extraordinary in the everyday. So hit that bell icon to stay updated, and let's keep this journey going. See you soon.